Hi, this is my August update. My orchids, just to record their progress. And I'd like to start with this Nymphinetia blooms. This is Benihime. It's a hybrid. The other name of it is Vanda castalis rainbow stars. It's a Darwinara charm crossed with just Furan. Yeah, Nymphinetia. I really like this one. It has nice rich pink color on the blooms. The shape of the blooms is not typical to Nymphinetia. Slightly changed because it's hybrid. But it does have Nymphinetia fragrance. It's very nice. And more importantly, this plant is very easy to grow. It clumps a lot. Like every year it produces more and more growth. I actually divided it this year and I divided it last year. And I still have pretty large plants. See, there's second spike coming. And it blooms easily. So if you like a Nymphinetia hybrids, I would recommend this one. And there are several varieties, named varieties of this cross. Mine is Benihime. There's also Yuhime that I would like to get. That one has yellow blooms. That would be interesting to have. So the other things that are going on here, I got a bunch of spikes on my catasetum. This is my Gladiatorium cross barbatum, which already bloomed this year. But instead of going to sleep after that blooming, it decided to create second spike. It's growing. Now, this is my Catasetum tenebrosum. Also has a spike. See? And that's my Catasetum saccatum. It has very well progressed spike already. I like those blooms. They are very dark and they smell very sweet and nice. So I will have a whole bunch of blooms soon. That's very exciting. I like catasetums. And another thing that is remarkable, well, it might not be too remarkable for some people, but for me it is. This is my Vanda javirae, which didn't do much for a couple years, like at all. But look, I think it started to grow cakey at the base. I mean, it's not a spike, but still it's doing something, which is good. So maybe after that the spike will come. This is miniature Vanda, and I actually bought it from Paramount Orchids like 3 years or 4 years ago, like few years ago, definitely. And it was listed as near blooming size. It was much smaller than now, and I kind of questioned that whether it was really near blooming size. And they said that this species can bloom on very small plants. So maybe it is now coming to blooming size. I don't know. But creating that little cakey, it's a sign that it's growing and maybe happy, which is good. Now I have few changes in my tank. First of all, I put my Bulbophyllums in a tank because they were really sulking on a shelf, and they were potted inside of pots, and because they're like kind of creeping style, you know, they started to spill out of the pot, and they were too dry. So I thought I needed something wider, and I came up with this setup. This is actually the container from ice cream dessert. We have a franchise called Dairy Queen here in Canada. I don't know if you have it in your country, if you're not from Canada, but they sell dessert called banana split, where they cut bananas in half and put it into this dish, then put ice cream and whipped cream and jam and pineapples and fudge, I think. So I really like that dessert. I buy it a lot. And at some point I thought that these containers would be really nice for the bulbophyllums because they're shallow, but they're also wide. And so I made holes at the bottom, of course, for drainage. And yeah, I potted my bulbophyllums, and as far as I know, they should like the humidity. So I put them inside of tank now. So all my 3 bulbophyllums, this is Bulbophyllum ambrosia that I showed the container. Bulbophyllum ambrosia, then on the back there is Bulbophyllum lacinatum in the same container. And there's also Bulbophyllum kalimpong on the other side in the same container. So, and ever since I put them here, a few weeks ago I did it. I think they liked it. They look much better. So hopefully it'll work for them. And the mix is the archaeata, a classic archaeata with sponge rock. Now I have some Wistrepia blooms. This plant is blooming a lot every summer. You can see how many blooms there are now, and all those little wires, those are the blooms that already finished. And this type of wire, it's a bud. So there's still lots of buds coming out, and it blooms and it blooms. So that's really nice. I like it. They're cute yellow blooms with some orange stripes. Looks very nice. And here are some new buds that I have. These are Miltoniopsis buds. Miltoniopsis Hawaiian Punch Kalapana. This is my pride and joy because I just started to try Miltoniopsis. It's totally new genus for me. Bresketsal gave me 3 or 4 divisions actually, and so this one is already spiking for me. That's very neat. I like it. They don't seem like, I read that they're hard to grow. They don't seem to mind being in my tank. See, the leaves are clean, and their roots. I started growing them in sphagnum moss, but at some point I noticed that they were too wet, and the leaves started to get kind of watery appearance. So I freaked out and I repotted them into bark mix, the same that I use for bulbophyllums, the classic archaeata with sponge rock, and they seem to like it. So that Miltoniopsis, the blooms should be yellow, and they should have nice fragrance. I'm looking forward to that one. Another plant that decided to spike is my black-haired Dendrobium tubaense. You see that black growth on the stem, little bump. That's how they grow the flower bud. Flower bud will be there. It's coming out of the node right there. So last year it bloomed on my smaller cane. See, last year it had 2 blooms on this cane, but this year it grew me much larger cane, much taller. And so it started producing this bud quite late in the summer, but at least it's coming. And I think this above, see that black spot? I think that's where the next bud will appear. That's how they appear. They create this black spot on the stem, and then the bud comes out of it. Now a little update on my Phragmipidiums that are growing in a tank. See, remember I was complaining that my Fritz Schomburg is playing dead and does nothing? Well, I guess it was not really dead, because There's a new growth coming right there. That makes me so happy. And I actually noticed that that growth on the side is growing too, because that leaf, the fresh green one, it's getting bigger. So I guess this plant decided to survive, decided to live. I didn't try to check the roots inside because I don't want to disturb it now, because it looks like it's doing something. So I'm gonna let it do whatever it's doing. That's a good sign. That's Fritz Schomburg. And my Carol Cancer hybrid, Carol Cancer cross with Humboldt TI, is doing well. It has lots of growth in active, lots of fans in active growth, which is really good. So I think my Aquagenera hole is getting adjusted well. Those are the Saffronitis that I bought from Aquagenera too. And look, this is bicolor. It was completely rootless, but now I hope you can see them. There's lots of little roots there. So it's doing great. And that's my Saffronitis cachinea, also from Aquagenera, also rootless. But there is a new cane growing, and I'm pretty sure that new cane will produce new roots at some point. For now, I just dunk it whole into water, and hopefully it takes everything through the leaves, so it's able to survive even without the roots. That's another Aquagenera purchase that Justin, I think. And this is my Dendrobium. This is the cross. And Nagomi Pink. The name is Nagomi Pink. And this flower is so long lasting. And I think the pink is getting brighter with time. When it just opened, it was pretty pale. But as the time goes by, I think it's getting the brighter pink color, which is good. And this plant has lots of new growth since I received it. So it's doing well. It seems to like my tank. It grows in a pure sphagnum moss, but in a very tiny pot. So I think it's working. And just to complete the Cuthbertsonii topic, that's the actual species, Cuthbertsonii, which is much smaller than Nagomi. But it's doing great also. See, this is the new growth that started. And yeah, I think it likes the tank too. It looks nice and happy in here. So I'm really glad that I bought those. I wasn't sure because they are advertised as cool growers. I wasn't sure if it will like my tank, but it seems that it does. I think probably the not conditioner, the fan blowing here probably makes it a bit cooler for the plant, and it likes it. My new Cymbidiums, they're in the tank too. They're tucked in under the shelf because they need lower light, especially this variegated one, because there's more white than green, so it needs less light. And see that new growth? It is growing because I compared to the picture of when I received it, there was less white exposed. So that's how I can tell that this new growth is growing, which is a good sign. So let's hope I will keep it alive here. I still not sure how to water it, how to tell when the medium is dry. It's really hard because there are pebbles in a clay pot, and I cannot yet quite tell when it's lighter, like by weight. So for now, I just do it once a week and check the weight of the pots to get used to it, and then we'll see what happens. My Bulbophyllums in a tank are also doing really great. This is my Venuston pardanii, and it looked like on main growth it wanted to create a bud, because I think this type of growth indicates that there is a bud coming. But at the last moment, it decided to grow these two new growths instead, which is fine because they are doing really well. They're growing pretty fast. So we'll see when it'll decide to go back to creating the blooms, hopefully at some point. And this is my Alois Handelbauer. And there are two new growths on this plant coming. This one is much smaller yet. I'm not even sure if you can see it. Hopefully you can. And the one on the right is a bit bigger. But they're progressing well. And this is my Bulbophyllum Hashimin, which also bloomed, and now there is a new growth coming. And I really love the pattern on the leaves. It's not just spots, but they're very the pattern, it's like somebody was actually drawing it. I think this is the best leaf pattern I've seen on Bulbophyllums. I'm not sure if Delanatii has the same pattern. I don't have Delanatii, but I think the mix of Vietnamese and Delanatii makes it this beautiful. So this was my August update on my orchids inside the tank. I didn't go through all of them because that would be too long, but the main key points are there. And I'm so looking forward to see the blooms on my Miltoniopsis. That would be a major victory for me. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.